Okay, we are live. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, the 27th of January, and it's the Senate Transportation Committee. And we're going to continue our discussions on different departments of the agency transportation. This morning, we are talking about maintenance and fleet division budget. Good morning. I think we have Wayne with us. We have Todd and David. Todd Law, you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, tell us a little something about all the purchases of those beautiful orange trucks out there.
Sounds good. For the record, my name is Todd Law, I'm the Deputy Director of District Maintenance and Fleet Division. So the first thing we're going to go over is actually the district maintenance portion of the budget. And as you all are aware, I'm certain, and probably remember, so what's in front of you is a plan of how we're going to spend the appropriation of the budget for the maintenance. The bottom line here, the $107 million and change is actually what the budget is. And again, everything above that's a plan. And day one, July 2nd, things can change, as we all know. And of course, one of the biggest variables is what we're seeing right now and what we experienced last night of winter weather. So, but just to point out really quickly, there's a couple things on the bottom line here that we wanted to make sure we pointed out. So from our FY23, which we're in right now, to FY24, there's about a $4 million increase. That is consumed with a couple different major increases in expenditures that we're expecting for FY24. First of all, salt has gone up about $3.2 million from previous pricing. So we don't anticipate that's going to go down.
Right there.
That's most of it right there. And then of course, everything else is continually going up, parts and equipment, and then the fact that our personnel costs are going up. So yeah, that's another a little over $1 million. So yeah, that sucks up that $4 million increase for between fiscal year 23.
So it went from $53 to $94 a ton or something like that. It was
some of them are 107. So the average from 2 years ago was about 53. This year is about 85, 84.50. That's our average price for salt.
Is there a scarcity of it or no?
Not that we're aware of right now. There was a couple things that I think affected that. Number one, there was a rail strike that was looming at that time. And then there's some issue with storage for at least one of the vendors. So actually, I think a couple of the vendors had to invest in some storage capacities. So
Todd, with Pay Act and so forth, salaries have gone up. Do you, in your budget process, do you have the cost of personnel in your budget here?
Not here. We can get you that information about what we pay.
Where do those salary and benefit costs for the people who work in your divisions? Where are they in the budget?
So we have. Well, actually, that would be in the.
Are they in your overall?
So what he's going to present is each of the activities have three different things in them: equipment time, people time, and materials. So they're embedded. They're embedded in the activities. Okay. However, in the white book, it does tell our employees costs. I can get you the number. I think it's 29 million.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Change.
Well, we were so low on drivers' salaries. I mean, it was really low. It was like 15, 16, and then it's gone up now.
So we were a couple of years ago. We were 72 vacancies in our world, our maintenance group, and our CG worlds combined, and we're down around 40 vacancies right now. So you're right. Good and the bad. The good and the bad is that when we don't have enough of our own staff, we have to hire some of the work out. And when we do that, it's good for the local economy with the contractors, but the price is up.
So my question is, out of that 107 million, all the salaries are embedded in there just in terms of the different lines, or are some of them in another place?
No, they're embedded in those activity codes.
Okay.
So each of these are activity codes based on.
So your salaries in there, Todd?
Correct.
Under
yes.
Administration.
More than likely, yeah. A lot of it's under general administration. but then there's legislature, I do some other things besides.
No, I
just-
understand. I just,
Say the salaries.
no, I know.
Oh, yes. Oh, good point. So Wayne was exactly correct. So salaries and wages, because we actually did a breakdown of what our base budget needs to be, based on salaries and
Sure, better.
turning the lights on and
Yeah.
heating, fuels, et cetera, $29.1 million. So Wayne was really close. And benefits alone are about 19 million of that.
And
So
that's in the 107.
that is in that overall budget, correct?
And how many employees are in?
Our world.
Yeah.
500.
150.
I was gonna say quite a few, because you've got all the.
Would you like anything deeper that I can?
No, I
Yes,
just, sometimes different departments do it differently.
Yeah,
right.
And so you've got, your personnel costs, but in this case, they're embedded in the staff time that's being spent on controlling and maintaining wildlife or transporting equipment or whatever. So it's allocated by task.
Right, and we have changed our presentation differently over the years as the committees like different things. If you have something else that you would love or like us to do.
No, it's a
definitely.
clarification. I just
Okay.
wanted to understand whether it was reflected in that total spending or somewhere else within that agency budget.
Should I go back a topic?
Go ahead.
So when you were talking about salt, and I know that Vermont V-Trans is probably already doing everything they absolutely can. I don't recall seeing you all present on it, but I serve on the city council, and this past December, we got a great chart from our Department of Public Works from the city of South Burlington on our salt consumption, and we've adopted in our plow these salt savers, and it's just, we've seen the use of, maybe we're just spreading less salt than we probably should be. I don't know if that's actually the case, but do you have anything you could speak to what the state's done to adapt some of our plows to minimize the use of salt in any way?
That is a great question. We actually just had a meeting talking about some of our best management practices that we have. You're talking the secondary plow, the salt savers. Yep. So we have some of those. We've been demoing those. I want to say, was it up to 10, Dave? Is that right? We got those salt savers, or we only had I thought it was like 10.
It's a separate plot. It just goes closer.
Yeah, it's like the blades of a grater, the kind of fingers, so it more bends to the roadway, so it conforms to all the abnormalities on the road. But it does give you additional scraping capabilities, especially if you have pads.
Plow?
It's right behind it. Yep, so it sits behind it and it kind of rides up and down a little bit. And again, it's more like fingers that kind of hit those different grooves. The other thing that we use for best management practices is the use of liquids. So the liquids alone, we spray it as it comes, the granular salt comes out of the truck, and it keeps it on the roadway, which saves 30 to 40%. Normally we get what's called scatter and bounce. Yeah, exactly. So it keeps it on the road where we want to melt off the snow and ice. And then, our normal is get that out early so we don't get that bond for the precipitation and plow it off. Because if it's on the side of the road, we don't have to melt it. If it's in the middle of the road, it packs on, then we have to melt it, and it's 2 to 3 times what normal application rates are.
I remember a few years ago, we had some discussion around consulting with municipalities because some of the municipalities were using tremendous amounts of salt because maybe the equipment or they didn't know the right ratio, they were just dumping it on. And so do you still work with municipalities on
We
those
do.
best practices?
Yeah, we do. Our Vermont Local Roads actually has a lot of municipal trainings for all municipalities. And
District techs will also go out and calibrate. Calibrating is a huge thing. The belt truck should be calibrated. They should check throughout the winter to make sure they're staying. Because if you don't know how much salt you're putting down.
Do we ever mix it with sand?
We do a little bit. Believe it or not, our liquid program actually does better than just mixing it with salt, because salt, so we'll do we'll do sand with some liquid, and the reason we do that is the liquid helps it adhere to immediately, so it almost turns things into a sandpaper type, this consistency. If you put it with salt, you still get the bounce. The liquid actually helps not do that, so, but we really concentrate on hills, corners, stop signs, lights with the sand, because of course they'll put phosphorus into the water, and it can cause some impaired waterways. Actually, sorry.
And it actually has very little melting capabilities. The only thing it does,
Yeah.
sunlight
I didn't
hits
know it
it.
was mixed in with the salt, but no, that doesn't.
Not usually. We do to some extent, but
Really cold
we
at night.
we used to.
We might do it to go home for a few hours, get some sleep. We may do it that way, but
Yeah.
we try to.
Cold temperatures, so.
So the city council of South Burlington is also in that discussion, we're focused on working with our private owners like the University Mall, as well as the Kmart shopping plaza, so that they could adopt some of the strategies. So I love that you all are educating municipalities, but I think there's a lot of private plotters too that could benefit from some salt reduction strategies.
Jared Carpenter. So, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, Jared Carpenter is actually looking at some, a bill, working with DEC and others, and we just met with him this morning. And that's one of the things. So there's a Green Pro certification that New Hampshire has. And there's also something very similar at, in the Adirondack areas around Lake George, that they're doing something similar, and it's to reduce liabilities for all of these private companies and the mall owners. And so they get a reduced rate on their liability insurance. So there's the benefit for them for using less salt, using a lot of these best management practices. So there may be something coming down the pipe. I know he said he was meeting with others and
From the Lake Champlain.
Committee. So, and he said he would be in here.
I'm glad to hear it's happening.
He's a lobbyist, he said.
SBDPW is very proud of their salt reduction strategy, so there's something to learn from a lot of people out there.
Definitely.
Yes, Russ.
So I've got a business friend of mine that he does a lot of the commercial plowing for the stores up there. And he says, I do the salting. So he's the only one that salts. He says and it's not just because he says, I want to use less of it. He said, but there's places where I can use less of it. And there's other places where it's just not a uniform where you just go and just turn it on. There's other places you have to go heavier, especially if there's pedestrian foot traffic where there's, chances to fall in front of businesses and stuff like that. But yeah, so he's the one that controls it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that one of our best management practices is training, obviously, making sure that our employees understand what our snow and ice control plan says, because that's very detailed on application rates and what we use for materials and why we use them. And the other thing that we tell everybody is, one ton of salt is the same price as 1 ton of asphalt. So if we don't use the salt, we can pave the road. So that's a huge impact.
How far would a truckload of salt go on the interstate, for example? How many miles do you think you can go? Normal conditions? That's probably not a question it's hard to answer. It's just.
As you say, normal application rates. Like you good.
If I may.
Yeah.
In talking with one of the employees at Central Garage that plows at night.
Yeah.
He managed to do the long route from exit 7 to exit 13 with a tandem axle dump truck. And he went, we figured that was 100 miles in both directions, and he used about 1 load of salt.
Wow, that's a long distance.
It is, and a lot of it, of course, depends on the application rate.
That's great, wow.
But some of you are using brine.
Yeah, where all of our trucks have the ability to put.
We
brine
do
in.
now,
So yeah,
all districts now are using brine.
Yes.
Okay.
and again, remember, we try not to say brine
I
anymore.
don't use that word. It's, oh my gosh, everybody's.
What is the no word now?
Liquid salt or liquid magnesium. So because we use 2 different products, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't all grouped together, because that was the misconception, was all liquids are the same. So we use liquid salt, which we make in our own little brine makers, which is 23.3% salt and water, so it's drinking water. We mix it together, we put it in, spray it on the salt so it stays on the road. When temperatures are colder, less than 20 degrees, we switch over to liquid magnesium. That'll work to sub-zero temperatures. So we can use less overall salt, get the same level of service.
Magnesium, from an environmental perspective, better?
It's still a salt, so it's a metal, and it is more expensive than us making our own. It's about 23 cents for us to make the liquid salt or the brine. The liquid magnesium is about $1.30.
It's also 70% less corrosive.
It's 70% less corrosive, which is a huge for our customer base, because that was one of the concerns, was the corrosion of our
We heard
vehicles.
I was surprised the other day coming down through on Route 14, it was 14 degrees out, and how well the product was working on the road. Very, very surprised. So I don't know if it was a magnesium that was being used there, but it was impressive.
Yeah, it was. When it's that cold, we definitely, and we've seen an uptick this year because the new liquid magnesium that we're using, we're getting a better handle on it. So it's working better for us, and we can, again, use less salt, less granular salt to get the same level of service and not get the pack that we used to get a lot of.
Yep.
So,
And you must be noticing this, that the pack isn't anywhere near like it used to be years ago. I mean, we were having some.
Oh, where iron right on.
Yeah, it was just thick, and then of course you'd have spots that would melt, and it was just big potholes in the salt, I mean, in the snow, I mean. So we don't get that hard.
Okay.
Oh, we beat that subject right to death.
Now it's liquid salt. We gotta remember that.
no, if you call it brine, we still, it's their liquids. So one of the other things to point out, if you're looking at this, because I know you get this email, so the total for FY22 looks extremely low. This is our state T funds, so the $81.5 million looks extremely low when you look at FY23. And if you recall, we used COVID relief funds, so we freed up state transportation funds that could be used for anything. And we utilized some of those COVID relief funds that couldn't be used for like the downtown development grants, a lot of the EV infrastructure. So we put a bunch of money into all these other different programs, took it out of the maintenance appropriation, and then offset it with those COVID relief funds. So overall, the FY22 budget with all those external funding was about 102, a little over 101, almost $102 million. So, brings it right back up to what FY23 and 24 are. So if that looks way off, that's the reason why, because these are only our state funds that we're looking at, and federal highway, of course, for the federal funds. But because those were FEMA and other COVID relief funds, it's not captured here. It's in the overall state transportation funds.
And we get a bulk of our money from the federal highway for.
We don't, as far as maintenance. Maintenance uses a majority, 99% state T fund. So, yeah, very, very little federal. It's mainly for our pollution prevention and compliance, all the stormwater permitting, et cetera. We use some clean water funds for federal highways from that.
I'd like to spend a lot of time on that $76 there.
Environmental.
Oh, yeah, a lot of that's like, and the thing is, we do a lot of environmental, but it's split up into different categories. So there's another one up here that's stormwater permit compliance.
I would think
And that's the big one. That's over $1 million itself. And that's a huge part of what our pollution prevention and compliance does, is goes out there and does all the inspections on those detention basins for water quality purposes, making sure every road that has its own stormwater system is adequately maintained, and all the different permits.
It just seems like some of them are really small, like $422 for painting lines. It's gotta be something, it must be showing up somewhere else.
No, I actually know that. Do you remember we couldn't get any paint?
Oh, that's
So,
why?
yes.
Yeah. Remember how?
Well, I guess you can't paint because you don't have any paint.
Yeah, so that, and we only do a little bit of our own painting, so most of that's done with federal dollars out of highway division.
Uh-huh.
We have a couple paint trucks of our own that, you know how the contractor will get out, they start as soon as they can, and they go through your town. Well, then all of a sudden, there's a project that comes through 2 months later, and they lay down new pavement. We may, or your town may even do some paving, and we'll go in and line striper for them, just to get it done and make sure it's caught up. And so we do that sort of stuff. We do the one-offs. So we don't usually spend lots of money on it anyways, but that was a bad year because we just couldn't get paint. So we used any paint we got for Spencer.
Operating drawbridges is back up again, huh?
It is. So
Saved you money though, it was the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right?
So the contractor was responsible for running the drawbridge during the project, and of course, the project is ending here in the next few months. So we have about, we thought it was gonna be about half a year when we looked at FY23. And of course, FY '24 will be a full year of us operating the drawbridge. And it's not like the old drawbridge. There's a lot more technology in it. There's a lot more sophistication in it, a lot more repair and maintenance that we're gonna have to do, greasing and all the
I
like.
think you all want to think the guy can turn the crank himself. I mean, That's how old it was.
All computers.
All computers and actuators.
Yeah, we are gonna go.
It's very impressive.
What happens if power goes out?
2 generators.
Generators, yeah, one on each side.
And is that 20, do you have to operate that 24/7? Or can you just say, we're not operating?
No, they shut down.
The Coast Guard tells us when we have to upgrade it. And so during the summer months, May 15th to October, November, we have to have it operated 12 hours a day, and it's from 8 to 8, I
So
believe.
that's Coast Guard.
And then after the 8 PM, we have to be on call and be able to open it within 4 hours.
So how many vessels and what are they? We're spending $250,000 to let them through.
Basically,
Ask the Coast Guard that question. It's a waterway that has to go through. We don't have any jurisdiction over that whatsoever.
And they remind us of that.
Yeah,
all the
nothing,
time.
nothing you say.
Obviously, you know the answer, but my question is, how many vessels do you have to, how
Oh, there's plenty
frequently
that go
do you
through
have
there.
to?
Sailboats and all this.
That you have to, that you actually have to,
We open it up.
That's a main route. coming
But a
out.
boat the boat that doesn't need it can go through anything.
Correct.
Right.
right,
I would assume any sailboat, like maybe even some bigger.
I believe there's a couple of commercial boats up there that, I think there's some almost like taxiway type boats up there.
Yeah,
You
I
know-
know there's a Coast Guard cutter.
Well,
That's
and I
another
also
one that
think
will
there's
go
some
through.
private owned boats that do like take bicycles across and do stuff too, larger boats, I don't know.
The best thing would have been if you could have had a bridge that went over and build it, but you couldn't, where the situation is, it would be best to go over like we do on the other bridges. And you permanently, you don't have to ever worry about a drawbridge, but the situation where it is, the road is, you couldn't get the long range pitch to go over the top of that waterway.
Do you know what the distance is between the water to the bottom of the bridge? Like what's the,
They told us 14 feet the other day.
any boat?
so that's not a whole lot of,
Yeah.
Russ can't get through his boat.
This is the North Hero Bridge.
Correct. Yeah, North Carolina, Grand Isle.
You should go to look at it though.
Oh, it's
Yeah, we're gonna go
impressive.
this way. The weather's nice and impressive. I think I'm gonna give them a tour up there. And,
I want to go to Middlebury.
You need to be.
Oh, tunnel?
yeah, that's a good one to see too, that Middlebury. That's, wow, that's an eye opener. That's a beautiful project. Right through downtown. Hard to believe. Okay.
I don't know, how much time does staff have to, hopefully they're working on one thing, so they could just do 8 hours on one, as opposed to 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there.
Yeah, it's usually for time management. Yeah, we definitely like to plan out our work. And of course, we're subject to whatever happens out there. So, they could be out on a project and immediately have to pull off. I mean, there's a lot of times that we'll go out and, we're plowing all night and we get up, get a bluebird day like today, and you go out and start patching potholes right after you get out of the plow truck. So it's definitely a variety in our jobs. So.
Well, you really break it down. It's a lot of different, everything.
A lot of codes,
A lot
time
of
codes.
codes. Wow.
Yeah, and there's actually more than this. We kind of simplify it a little bit because there's a lot of them that are different components, like bridges.
Is
Bridge maintenance has all kinds of different components that we look at, but
Where does fuel go under? Does that go under every department separately or like diesel fuel for the truck?
it's covered in
In
those.
those sections?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Because that must have made an increase too this year with the.
It is.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
It goes up of 50 cents a gallon. We're talking 6 gallons.
So this is something, because it's all state funded, T-fund. This minute detailed reporting is something the state has determined is necessary for program administration.
There's a few reasons we do it. So if we have a FEMA emergency event, a disaster, we use
Then you're
our
able to-
MATS program, and that's where we use it for our time reporting, but we also can break it down into this activity tracking. So it's called managing assets for transportation systems. But we put in our time when we do all these things, and it helps us track how much it costs for us to do the work. And then again, it goes right into our payroll system. So, there's no duplication there, which is nice. But yeah, we can break it down by how much we spent on whatever the activity is, which is helpful for all of us.
You can literally tell you how much it costs to put per linear foot of guardrail to put it in and fix it. Or
So yeah, it is helpful for us. And like I said, on the FEMA disasters, it makes it very, very easy for us. We tag an EA or an expense account, and then we can just print it off and send it on, and we get our reimbursement, which is huge for us. It helps us repair and replace any of our assets, and so.
Your fuel question, 24 is, I think it's 4 million for diesel and $1 million for gasoline.
Correct.
Is there, but is it budget?
Just in maintenance.
Just a
Just
maintenance.
on-
Yep.
Yeah, wow, look at the price of diesel that's happened last year,
Wow.
crazy.
You're talking about gallons or dollars?
Dollars.
Do you have, I assume you can tell us the gallons. We wanted to know.
Do you?
I don't have that.
Well, you could, if we
We can
need,
get you that, yeah.
I don't need it, but
Oh,
at some point I might.
Wow.
I mean, like sometimes, I just like to look at total gallons. I do it up for other fuels. And you can do it for heating fuels too, that's a different. Here's a question for you, like in your professional opinions of making sure the roads are safe and people are safe driving, do you think people should have winter tires on their cars?
It's one of the things we definitely promote is having winter tires.
On all sides.
All seasons work in some areas, but up here, with how difficult our travel is, yeah, no, it's definitely something that we promote.
All-wheel drive and all
You
seasons.
you mandate that, let me tell you, tires, the price of tires today, to get
How
more
many people do
tires.
you think still don't use winter tires?
Oh, I think there's still quite a few.
most of the people over the bank.
Those are the summer
No,
tires.
no, that's not true.
You put on winter tires. You don't either?
Sometimes put on my wife's car, but I just do all-wheel drive all seasons.
It's
Yeah.
perfect. If you got good tires, the first.
They're on
one, you can't have
transportation
all
and they don't
tires.
use winter tires.
And your comment before we came online was drive to the conditions.
Yeah,
And that's huge. That really is.
I don't care what kind of tire you got on the car, it's gonna be there. If there's ice and you're driving crazy, you're gonna have an accident.
But I I had winter tires on mine. My wife and I have similar vehicles, and I had winter tires on mine. We jumped in hers one time. I wouldn't put winter tires on a vehicle. It was that much of a
I can tell
difference.
you.
Yeah, but what was it, rear wheel drive? or
No, it was
front-wheel
all-wheel drive, but there was a difference. For me, there was.
All I could think of driving the last couple of days was whoever put that, and wasn't on a sign that I, on Route 2, but it's, what was it? Snow and slush don't rush,
Yeah.
and that's what I was thinking. That slush, you can ride right up on it, just like you can, hydroplane.
Throw you around.
Can throw you around.
The other thing is, people in winter, you can't make any quick, sharp movements. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
pass, if you
Yeah.
decide you're gonna
You
pass,
better
you
get in
should
that lane.
position it a long time to get out of the lane.
Oh,
and a long
ease
time to get
over.
out.
That's right there.
Because if you don't, that's what makes you great traction inside.
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of different, and I get, Wayne loves me to be on the TV, so, things we talk about is give yourself additional space. Give yourself additional space, don't make any of those aggressive moves, no quick stops, all that.
I also want to compliment the snowplow drivers. It's been this year, I don't know if it's a policy or whatever, or it's just the individual snowplow drivers. But they seem to really monitor how many vehicles are behind them. And at a given time, they pull off, they let the traffic go and all of that. And,
Just gotta respect the plow.
Yeah.
Don't crowd the plow.
But I think that they're actually, when they're doing a lot of maintenance work, where they basically have to plow the road kind of in a passable position, and now they're trying to push the sides back a little bit more, where the roads are kind of passable, but they seem to be very accommodating as far as to let the group of
And then
traffic by.
they're happy to follow. the plow.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I passed one
Absolutely
yesterday
is.
morning, I rolled down the window, gave a nice wave, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make sure all your fingers are erect.
Yeah, that's right.
You get some of the level one ones.
So to that, I did do a drive along with a plow truck right before that Christmas Eve storm or Christmas storm. And I gotta say, I was shocked at how these Mini Coopers on Route 15, these small cars just sit by the plow or trying to do a legal turnaround. Do you want a law? Like, you can't pass school buses. You want a law so people are just more conscientious of the plows that you can't pass a plow truck on a single lane road?
Oh, no, we'd never,
Anything just to discourage aggressive driving around them?
that could be a problem, I think.
Not to enforce it, but just to keep it in people's minds.
We say that all the time, don't crowd the plow, and we always put out every fall, like Todd was saying, we talk about be prepared, have good tires, winter tires, leave yourself more time, leave space between, things like that. That's above my pay grade to tell you all.
Just like texting, you can tell someone to go to jail for 20 years, they're still gonna text. People that are gonna violate the law are gonna violate the law. I know.
It's against a lot of text, and I think that might be discouraging some texting and driving.
Well, it's still an epidemic out there. If you have how many drivers they catch.
But they-
Multiple cars.
Cell phone, I mean, you go down through.
Yeah, look at that.
It just was ridiculous that people be riding the plows.
We have multiple cars hit us every year. Multiple cars hit us.
Well, then
Wings.
We had the one that was on social media where the car passed us down towards Middlebury. And it was pretty nasty out. It was slushy and went around us and then came in front and unfortunately lost it and rolled over in somebody's front yard. And that was luckily not a tragedy, but a fatality.
I think about the number of times that we've done pirouettes in Route 2, and it's just lady luck that nobody's coming in the other direction.
Yeah.
And I was coming out of Marshfield, the hill, and I'm in the right-hand lane. There'd been a snowstorm, and it was clear, so I was going like 55, and somebody wanted to pass me, but the passing lane had not been cleared. And you looked in the rearview mirror, and you can see them slow down. They're losing traction, and that car went right across 2 lanes, hit the guardrail on the westbound lane, and bounced back. And I thought, how fortunate that no one was coming down that hill, because it went right through the other, into the other lane, and then back again. It was just wanting to, drive faster than the road conditions. So those passing lanes, even you have to be very careful of those.
So the same truck, of course, is trying to take care of that one in the next hill up that has the passing lane too, of course. So
The by Molly's Pond.
yeah. So anyway, so they have to they do one lane and they come around the next time and try to hit it again. So it takes a minute to get back to do that other one. But we did just pave that hill coming up by Marshfield Dam. We paved that section
Yeah, I
up to the new project. So that should help with our materials use and things also there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's hope we've got a few days.
I thought I saw Wayne's salary, 250,000, everybody's stormwater.
Also, Scott.
Well, maybe with benefits, you're not so far off.
He was just kidding, he was kidding.
Very much kidding.
Joke.
No, you look through salaries, and with salaries and benefits, there's some.
Especially if you work for the sheriff's department.
Yes, yeah, you work, Caledonia County there. What county are you in? Okay, yeah, I guess it's just want to remind you of that $440,000 in bonuses.
I know.
One guy made $1,000 in salary, he got a $24,000 bonus. Wow,
That is very unfortunate.
I guess so. Man, that's gonna put a bad mark on it.
That, well, add to the litany of problems that we've experienced. And I guess Orange County, that was, according to the newspaper.
Okay, Todd, let's, what do we got now?
So I don't know if there's anything we want to talk about. Like you said, there's not a lot.
I'm good if nobody wants to go down through item for item, but it's up to you guys.
Anyone else you like?
No,
I was gonna say, obviously the plan varies. There are some differences, especially from FY '22, because we were still doing some COVID relief, and we actually pushed a lot of different projects with our carry forward funding of paving, culverts, and all that. So those numbers really went up. You can see leveling paving, $5.5 million, and I think we had about $3 million in for the plan. But we had that carry forward money, so we did a lot of paving. So
The top 5 big differences.
So obviously, we were down people, like Wayne said, 72 vacancies. So, the maintaining structures, that's culvert liners and all that, we were doing replacements. So, that's under replacing culverts. So
You just didn't have the staff to do the maintenance you would have normally done. That's why it's so low.
that was a big part of it. The other piece of it is it'd be under that culvert line item itself, maintaining culverts here. So that's up significantly, and we want to continue that because there's so many culverts in such poor shape. And again, I think we were around $2.5 million in our plan. So, that money didn't go to this one, which is lining them. So we were in a
At the
replacement.
very beginning with COVID, I'm sorry, but the very beginning with COVID, we couldn't put teams together. We had to stay so far apart, all these different things. So that slowed us down, some of that stuff too.
This is a safety thing too. I recall the gentleman I rode with the plow truck with, he said, when you all started carrying the trees back, maintaining the slopes more, that exposed the road, which means that the road stayed warmer from the sun, so you had to use less salt and it was less icy. So everybody loves trees. I love trees, but pulling them back from the roadways.
And they grow up very quickly,
Yeah.
particularly your softwoods.
Yeah.
And we've had trees come down. We actually had a tour bus a few years ago in Vermont, up between Middlesex and Waterbury, that was going north on the interstate during one of these snowstorms, and a tree came down, and actually they didn't see it, and it hit them right across the windshield, and the driver of the tour bus ended up in the hospital with some pretty bad injuries. So in New Hampshire, had a family killed, the whole family, parents and children. A tree came down and on their car during the storm, and so
Why they were driving, just the timing was just.
Yeah. So if you notice, you're going to New Hampshire and other states around us, they're pushing everything back pretty much to the right of way where they can and where they know they have dangerous trees.
We're doing French Hill there, I noticed on the way.
We're opening French Hill.
Boy, that opened up nice.
And then down, you'll see it down below Bethel too on the interstate, down around exit 3 south. We're opening up all around those corners. More sunlight helps.
You're going, well, some people will go 85, as we know. So if they turn around a corner, there's a tree there, you're going 80 miles an hour, even a small tree.
Okay, you got another slide, have you? Any other slide?
The only other slide we have is the central garage. We can.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Any other questions? Okay, good, thank you. Thank you.
Lisa.
There we go.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me here again. Appreciate it. My name is, for the record, David Thurber. I'm the superintendent of Central Garage.
Garage, pretty good shape, is it? I know we put some money in it a few years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we're doing quite well. We're maintaining our replacement
I see a lot
schedule.
of activity in that garage, wow.
Yes, there is. This slide is carried forward from the last time that I was here. Our replacement cost, we had to replace everything all at once, would be about 72 million. Our appreciated value is about is 30.5 million.
Good chunk of money, yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Was there any questions on that? Again, this one we've seen, our typical tandem axle plow truck is about $200,000. And that's complete with all the plow and gear and everything on it.
Years ago, someone said that the specs for Vermont plow trucks were some of the best of all states in terms of the, I don't know if that's still true. You go to Mass, in terms of the way that they're designed, the power, efficiency, just just what you're requiring for the trucks to have. But I don't remember who mentioned that, but I filed it away. And you go to Massachusetts and you see anybody who's in a construction business, they've got just dump trucks and pickup trucks and they plow very differently. They actually just close off all the lanes and
Yes.
sort of do a sweep.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's still true or whether our engineering specs for the vehicles are
So,
substantially different than other states or.
that I'm not sure of. I have written specs for quite a long time. So I'm kind of proud of those, and we do try to get, we've been doing it quite a while, and try to make adjustments if there's a weak point somewhere or something like that.
Does international pretty much dominate the market? I mean, meet our specs or?
You said you were getting freight liners.
Yes.
Didn't you say that?
We are getting 9 Freightliners.
Oh, really? Okay.
They'll be in service next summer
Oh.
and for next winter. International does a very good job in their vocational truck market.
Because you have to carry parts for them after, right? At your
Yes.
garage, so
Yes,
now you'll have to carry parts in 2 trucks or
Yeah.
maybe 3. Okay, just.
And you'll be able to do the warranty work on Freightliners as you do with the international.
Yes, it'll be a little bit different because of having only 9 trucks. We don't get the requirements to do all the warranty, but they will allow us to do some. We'll
No
do that.
parts, hard problem last year, getting parts for all these. My son's a automotive, that's the way he said half the stuff he ordered for car parts. You know? Yes.
Sorry, we don't carry parts like we used to years ago. So years ago, we used to carry many parts in our stocks in our parts room. We try to do a lot more on time type
Okay.
stuff. Now, because of the problem getting stuff, we've started getting a little bit more than
Right.
we need, and it's just so
Stuff that we
that
know it's gonna break or
Right.
pretty much.
exactly,
Yeah.
the stuff that we know that
It's
it's
gonna break, yeah.
keep more up, but other things we try to do on time stuff, so we're not having to.
Because we got our own mechanics, right?
Yeah, we have all of, yes, definitely have all of the mechanics. And we do have, they do a great job. They know parts that break within the first year or two. And it could be just little fittings, it could be little
Right.
screws. So they expect that stuff, so it changes it right out before it comes to us, so we don't have to worry about it. The other thing that we do is, we are some of the best, he'll show you in a slide. We try to do 8 to 9 year replacement on our plow trucks. Other states are 10, 12 and
Yeah,
higher.
we went to 8 here a while.
And it keeps our costs down, because he'll show you once you break 6 years, 5 years.
Oh,
It's
sure.
actually one of
Well,
those.
that's, you run a truck heavy duty for 8 years, that's a lot of wear. Because they're not baby, those things are gonna run and they just go, you know.
What would be the mileage on a truck at? I know that's one of the things that you evaluate in terms of putting it up for sale, but what is the, on average, 100?
I would say we're average probably 100,000 plus. Some some are-
To wear out.
some are closer to 200,000, some are a little under.
They have winter tires on.
So even our
Do you have
pickups.
to chain up, like Route 9 at times? Do you ever have to actually chain up your plow truck?
And we provide an area on the plow frame for the districts to put their chains on and carry them right with them.
Than one of our trucks every day.
I know.
They used to be popular years ago, we had chains on the cars. and-
Yeah, but you had those rear-wheel drive
Yeah,
cars,
oh, yeah, oh,
and then
sure.
you'd only have winter tires on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
You think about the
Southern
cars that we
tires.
used to drive
Oh, my
and
God.
how much better they are today.
Well, even the roads, the way they take care of them are so much better than what it was back then. Imagine, no wonder we even kept them on the roads.
Do you put the chains on regularly, or are they kind of an exception?
If it looks like an ice, gonna be any type of an icing event, they put them on. They're taught to be able to put them on the side of the road too, if conditions change when they're on the side of the road by themselves.
David, the central garage purchase, are you kind of also the fleet manager, or is that some different office?
I manage the fleet, the central garage fleet from central garage, yes.
Just the central garage fleet or all vehicles in AOT?
I guess now, we do, the agency does lease vehicles from BGS
BGS.
fleet, and those are
So all the light duty or BGS and anything that's like a decent sized truck, and bigger is your
So
fleet.
let's see, Central Garage has some 1,500 size pickups. It's a small number. Sedans and hybrids and some of our electric stuff has come from BGS fleet. I'm working on exploring electric vehicles for our fleet as well, where I can. At the moment.
So do you do, most of the light fleet is BGS, or is it just like sometimes it's BGS, sometimes you get them?
So Dave is new into this position, and we've changed things a little bit. So we have T plates, which are 100% transportation vehicles. We have F plates, that's BGS vehicles that we do lease through them. However, Dave is in control of what our agency gets out of BGS.
You ask for the vehicle.
He,
Yeah.
and through us too, will decide, like, if you work in our agency, you want, I want a truck, I want it to be a 3/4 ton, 4-wheel drive crew cab. We're probably gonna say, no, we don't think you need that. You're going to get at a minimum a hybrid, and it's gonna be this. Or, or you have to really prove to us that we can't get either through BGS or our own. So BGS, and I won't speak for them, but we talk to them a lot. They are mandating at least a hybrid electric on everything. Now, we are too. Now, the problem is we can't always get it. So we may not wait. Sometimes can't wait years. For example, we ordered 6 Ford pickups, fully electric, and we ordered 6 Chevys. We were working on a 1.5 years, and we still don't have any yet. So, but we're looking at hybrids, things like that. So Dave isn't fully in control of those F plates, but he controls what we get for our agency on the F plates. Does that explain it right?
Is it a split that most of the lighter duties come through the leasing program and the heavier duties come through T plates?
Most of our stuff is at least 3/4 ton or 1 ton up on it.
The number of sedans is very small.
We don't have any, well, our fully electric stuff that we've been buying, we own
We had one
Mustang.
one.
Lucky. We bought one of those because we're trying to get into that system, so we bought one of those. But we have very, very few.
A good car.
They're gonna get a Corvette.
Yeah.
He wants to know if he can get an orange one.
Yeah.
Let's take a
But if he does that, we gotta give him a pass. All right?
So does the DMV pickups,
Yes.
they come through Central
Yes,
Garage?
you do.
Oh, yeah, they get all of
You fit
them,
them
they get all
up
of those
and stuff.
vessels up there. Oh my God. They get everything.
We have changed in the last few years. The outfitting of them has been put out to bid. There's a company in Westfield that does that. We maintain them afterwards and do repairs. But the folks that were doing the outfitting at Central Garage moved on, and it kind of made sense to,
Westfield, Vermont?
yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
There's nothing in Westfield, no offense.
No.
I wouldn't think there'd be
Yeah,
specialized,
it's a-
it doesn't seem to be the market up there.
Yeah, it's a small, independent, one or two people.
But it's specialized service.
Yes.
All I know is Central Garage, when they used to get DMV pickups, they were always envious of all the stuff that they had on their pickup. They got the best of everything.
Yeah,
And we always say, how come they get the best of everything? They had a nice fleet, I'll tell you, but they service them over to Central Garage, is that correct? And, now, all our garages, they have mechanics. I know the main stuff has to come to you right over here at this garage.
We changed a little bit recently. Central Garage is servicing District 6, but all the districts, we have at least one centralized garage in each
Okay.
area, each region, and we have mechanics
Like
there.
changing corners, they have their own
Yes.
person, or
Yeah.
persons or whatever.
We do have our facility at Central Garage, we have a crane, overhead crane, so sometimes things will come in that
Yeah.
need
I
that.
always thought this was the main place for the
Yes.
heavy duty stuff or whatever has to be done.
It has shifted a little bit
Okay,
because we do have those centralized and regional. It used to be like you were saying,
yeah,
that there was a couple different mechanics out there. So we had the district mechanics and then we had the Central Garage mechanics that were out in the district.
okay,
They were working out of the garage. So we have facilities for each of them now. So
okay.
White River Junction, the new facility that's down there, actually has its own fleet maintenance shop. Chimney Corners has a couple bays that are for the fleet maintenance. Central Garage has always been, Berlin for many, many years has been, like you said, the hub that would do all the major stuff. We can actually do that in other locations now. Lindenville, St. John'sbury, that facility up in the Northeast can do a lot of that bigger stuff.
They don't have to come down here, waste a day or two, or just.
So, yeah, so driving from Bennington to Central Garage.
Right.
Make a whole lot of sense, or having to drag. So we have 7 locations around the state
I'm
now.
pretty excited about St. Albans getting a new facility. That's been a
And
terrible.
we're gonna have a couple bays in that one.
Oh, my God, yeah, that's.
For mechanics.
Now it's terrible. It's just, Okay, yeah, go right ahead.
So here, is my budget on the page. See, we had an increase of 1.2 million between 23 and 24. Largely in our personal service and operating costs, our mechanics and technicians and staff have had a pay increase, which is nice. Our operating costs, of course, is kind of where the unknowns are. I did have to actually build this budget from scratch this year, and I was pretty happy that it didn't come in way out of line with last year. Fuel and parts and things like that, steel, it's a bit of a question sometimes, so.
Look at tires. Tires have gone up. Oh my God, tires.
Yes.
About double the price. Four tires for cars, Brad, averaging $1,200, $1,400 for tires for cars. So I can imagine what for dump trucks, bigger tires and all that stuff.
Motor tires are $2,500 a piece, roughly.
Really, I figured that because I know automobile tires.
As you can see on the left here on the bottom in the green is my equipment budget for 24, where shows our supplemental transfer, which covers largely inflation each year, and then our depreciation of the fleet. Auction surplus sales is figured into that, and those 3 items are all obligated to replace equipment, and very little difference between last year and this year.
So equipment costs on the right in your recommended budget, that would be replacement, to adhere to the replacement schedule. Yeah. And that's on your earlier slide, if we did everything all at once, it would be
About 72 million.
72.
How often do you have to replace the plows?
They generally speaking, it's
Go with the truck, right?
it goes with the truck. Sometimes they hit a bridge joint or some things and they get destroyed and we have to replace it. Minor repairs.
Part of the truck.
Yeah.
Replacements.
Yeah, minor repairs will do to keep that plow going, but then when the truck goes, the plow might go with it. So,
We do keep 25-ish spare dump trucks and there's spare plows with each of them. So when things go to auction, sometimes we keep the better of the trucks and the better of the plows. So, and then those trucks will go to auction next year.
When Wayne goes drives a truck, you must make sure it's good shape.
Do you still have your CDL?
I do. So it's time to.
Yeah, that's right.
And just so you know, because we're light in our plow drivers, we've had to use managers to do plow.
I take out every guardrail there was.
I don't know how they control it.
I know, and mailboxes.
That's gonna be amazing the way they
Yeah.
control those wells.
Well, you wrote it, so you got, that wing is wild.
Yeah, I know. You gotta.
When I was plowing, I actually did not like to plow with the left-hand plow because when you're right-hand plows, you can't see the wing and it's all by feel. You can actually feel the pressure of the snow coming off your plow. And if you're really, you can feel it kind of pushing back a little bit. So that's how you can stay away. You learn to stay away and you can literally get good enough. We stay an inch away from the guardrail, I'll touch on from that feel of pushback. My problem with the left-hand plow that you can see, when I look out my window to see it, my steering wheel would also go that way. And it would just, I pull into it every single time. So it was just.
So you're really driving that plow with one hand.
By feel.
The one
Well, you-
hand is.
This whole console.
And you have a
there.
big console and everything computerized and you have to, you're changing.
You were
numbers,
very
you're
impressed
changing
by
signs.
that, huh?
He was doing this, like while driving.
That's what I'm saying.
These levers for the
towels.
towels,
It's all to learn.
and all the shifting that we've gone pretty much automatic because of that. There's a lot going on in that truck.
Real skill.
And just so you know, because of that, years ago, we used to have, they were called wingmen. You
Yeah.
see 2 people per truck. So when I first started, there was always 2 people per truck.
Wow.
And when I first started, I was the person that ran the wings and the controls for the salt and sand.
Yeah, they pound the same routes all the time too, so they get to know where everything's at, and yeah.
My hand never left the controls and when I was in the truck because you knew your cold spots. So like the boss would say, put 400 pounds of salt on. It was never just 400 pounds up, you know, turn it on and leave it that way. You knew your cold spots, so you might turn your cold spots to 600 pounds, but then you get into the area that gets lots of sun, you might take it down to 200 pounds. So the average was.
Can you also change it based on the road pitch or the,
Well, shading, trees, ledges.
just like at the bottom of a hill where would be the worst?
Yeah, all those sort of things. The driver learns what stays icy longer, that sort of stuff.
Many plows up your district, anybody plow?
My,
There are any roads.
my wife's grandfather used to be the road commissioner for the town of Irisburg, and they had a heavy-handed new select board member who just really thought he wanted to be involved, so he took him on the truck, and it was one of those bad storms. He says, I took him right up through there. And he said, of course, he'd been plowing these roads for 30 years. He said, we headed down this hill. He said, and the snow's flying over, and he knew right where he was. They got where you go in a full panic, slow down, slow down. He said, I didn't have to worry about him riding with me anymore. Yeah, he was all done. It wasn't quite so important.
It was a heavy storm that I was in, and I had no idea where you could see anything. Zero visibility. You're driving this huge piece of equipment with an arm going out. It's just really, you need to know the roads. And,
You ever watch Star Wars?
yeah.
And the reason I say that is you ever seen when they go into the light speed or
Yeah.
warp speed,
Yeah.
all those stars going by with all the white flashes?
Yeah.
That's what you got on your windshield. So it's tiring when they've been out there. My longest stretch, we do not do this anymore.
No.
We not, but my longest stretch years ago was 56 hours without going home, staying in the truck.
Oh, my God.
So, you know, now 16 is what we really try not to go beyond. But
That's a lot.
sometimes it's 20 or more.
No.
That's a lot of pressure.
Particularly when the snow gives you almost vertigo.
It does.
Um,
That's why when people see us stopping, we no longer have fuel stations at most of our garages. We'll have some above ground tanks, but they only hold 1,000 or 2 in case power's lost in places, things like that. But we buy most of our diesel from vendors, from, you know, the mini market road type of thing. The good thing about doing that is when they stop to get some fuel, though, and they also may get a coffee, they may grab something really quick to eat because
The bathroom.
bathroom because they're constantly moving. So I just want people to be aware that's when they do that sort of thing. It's not like they're messing around. It's,
No.
and I'm sorry, Dave.
Or as even in this job, I just had an immense amount of respect for, you know, what they did.
Yeah, me too.
It's always did.
Well, you know, there's so many functions and services government provide that people don't even think about.
They
They're
just
taken for
automatically think it's
granted.
gonna be
And then, and so it's,
Christmas Eve and we're home. and the
I know,
fireworks
so,
are here, you know, that's.
no, and it's not only that, law enforcement is out,
Yeah.
you know.
Truck rescue.
Corrections has got to be, so, there's so many different ways that society benefits from the services of government, and this is certainly one.
Any questions on the
I
Central Rock
think we've
budget?
covered that, I think, pretty well.
Our operating costs is many line items, so I didn't put it in. If anybody's interested. In the white book, oh, yes. It's there.
Something more, you can bring donuts to my police department, my fire rescue, but also every Sunday I go over and bring donuts.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice.
No, I do, it's just a thank you for all they do.
On this slide, I have,
Are you interested in a few more? I know we're over now, we're about to be.
Yeah, we're all
See the
right.
budget.
I looked at that clock and I misread it.
Well, we've got a lot of questions this morning, so.
This shows, real quick, we have 179 dump trucks that are less than 8 years old, which is my target.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes that doesn't work out and they're a little older. Here's a graph, not from any of our information, just kind of shows the cross there at 5 years where the for this particular graph. It shows
How to calculate optimal replacements.
Right. It's 5 years. It's not necessarily for dump trucks, but shows the
A lot of the smaller fleets, that does
Our
pertain to a
pickups.
lot of all the smaller fleet is 5 year.
pickups and things that are in 5 years. This is an annual operating cost for a dump truck. The large spike in 2017 is actually our outfit costs. The way we put it in the system, this report captures that. Then you can see it comes down. 2019 was a bit expensive on this truck, but you can see as it hits 2022 and 5-6 years old, the costs start to go back up again. Here's a pickup. Again, the high spike is gonna win service. And this is getting older, toward 2022, it's starting to get a little more expensive per mile to run. Here's my equipment plan for a couple of years, last year, fiscal year 23 and going forward. It's a little bit in the hole there for 24, but this is just a plan and certainly can be adjusted.
The cash lead up big time this week.
Yes.
Oh, it did.
Yeah. So what sounds
It moves up and down, so.
Yeah.
There's the hockey. But you didn't get a police.
I have not yet. I am working on getting a hybrid police interceptor for DMV. And as soon as Ford offers a hybrid F-150, we'll look at those.
And they need to have those big heavy trucks
They
as opposed to
carry-
the state police.
they carry a lot of gear in the back. They have up to
All
6
the
scales.
weights, the
Six
scales.
scales in the back and columns and flag, roadside signs and things like that.
So they got police marked on them. On the DMV vehicles.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got police.
yes, it does.
Used to say DMV enforcement.
Yeah, now I saw one at the interstate, so they must work as a police.
Well, they do have all the same capabilities of the police, and they have been actually helping the state police because they.
I saw them at the
they were
interstate a
struggling
couple times in my area, they're on the crossovers there.
They have the same law enforcement training
Right.
credentials.
And more.
Yeah.
Actually, with the overweight and everything, so they have a little more than state police.
So isn't that what Jake, you said people didn't know they were police, so if you
Yeah,
fly by them and he pulls
Yeah,
them over.
Jake used to catch everybody every morning on the way to work, I watch him, he never went back and forth to Winooski without catching one.
No. It said his nickname was Ticketron.
One bit in this last slide, the excavator that's there is actually part of the central garage fleet. It's a battery electric
Oh, that's right.
excavator.
Electric one.
And we had the distinction of being the first in the state to buy an this size electric excavator from a local vendor.
Wow.
And it is in the shop, but it's not broken. They were finishing up some installation work, so.
Good in my head.
It is. And then we also have, we'll be taking delivery very shortly of a small Volvo wheeled loader that will be used for loading salt and some other things.
And we're actually looking at getting another fully electric, battery electric excavator.
So from Volvo,
Next size up.
from Volvo as well.
But that's
It'll be-
right now, I think the only one that's
Yeah.
manufacturing something that's being put out, so.
Is Volvo still got a relationship with Ford? Is Ford and Volvo, that's not that.
Sure.
I know they were with the vehicles, but
Right.
Dave, do you know the price of what was the price of the excavator?
The excavator, we did get a discount. It was $99,900.
So,
What's the regular- what's the
Grocer, we put everything under. the-
$9.99.
It's the diesel excavator.
About half of that, 60,000. The same with the wheel loader that we're buying. It's about 150, which is about $40,000 less than some of the big full-size diesel loaders.
149,999.
Yeah. So,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your
Good
time.
overview this morning. I like that. Good.
Oh, so we have Caleb coming in at 10.
Appreciation, piece. When I was at the Plumbers Hall, dinner to, thank you to all the people on the roads.
So you want to take a 5-minute break right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the past, it has been, we've done the, what do you call it? Declaration or something, or not,
Resolution.
Yeah.
resolution
Yeah.
for them, which has been nice, and they have those hanging on the wall. Past, yeah.